This is really good, okay? I can't not talk about this, okay? I now anyone can make a Medium article, but gosh, goddamn if it doesn't look, authentic, all right? Look at this. The left on Twitch has a toxicity problem. Will the space be forever defined by an overabundance of shouting and screaming? And this is phenomenal, okay? Because on one hand, we've got me, known Twitch streamer Vosh. And then in the middle, we've got Destiny, known leftist. And then over here we have Mindwaves, who is both on Twitch and a leftist. We've got 1 out of 3. Okay, 1 out of 3 we managed. We accurately. But I actually read this article. Okay, now I'm not encouraging people to dogpile the author. I saw some people on Twitch, on Twitter, who are being perhaps a little bit spicy, in their conversation with the person who wrote this article. But I thought it was really interesting because it seems like a circumnavigation of the real issues. So let's look at this, okay? Here, join me, and then we'll talk about Sargon. I know that. Okay. Spectacle has been a consistent feature of professional streaming on Twitch, and leftists aren't any exception. In order to drive growth upwards, there's a business incentive to keep fanning the flames of conflict. For a long time now, this has been fueling fissures within the community. Do the ends justify the means, or is the left beholden to stick more closely to its purported ideals and refuse to give in to a misguided quest for more social capital regardless of origin? So immediately, there's a really interesting false dichotomy that is being presented here. The suggestion made is that you are somehow compromising on your leftist ideals if you are using spectacle and conflict as a tool to drive engagement. That's very strange to me, especially considering the roots of many leftists, academics, or like academia in general, is in the historical material dialectic, the idea that it is the antagonism between opposing force that drives social change. So it's weird, considering that lefties have long believed that antagonism is the bedrock of bringing about social change, that it would be an abandonment of lefty principles to be, to be argumentative and conflict oriented. Twitch's own history is to account for why creators often opt for the former approach, since the platform's roots are deeply steeped in gaming. Toxicity is quite commonplace. Gamergate had already sullied the ground by normalizing heated dispute. That's really interesting to me. Is that what was wrong with Gamergate? That it normalized heated dispute? Was that what... Answer me this, chat. Riddle me this. Was that the issue with Gamergate? When I look back at Gamergate and I look at how all of the big pillars of Gamergate are now neo-Nazis, and how the people who were a part of Gamergate are now conspiratorial reactionary conservatives. Think about it. Mr. Medicare, neo-Nazi, huge part of Gamergate, right? Sargon, ethno-nationalist, huge part of Gamergate. Thunderfoot got out of it. Good for you, Thunderfoot. There is a... the roots of Gamergate led pretty dark road, I think Thunderfoot actually said, the reason why he broke with the skeptic community is because he realized the Gamergate crowd was literally just turning to fascist apologia. So that was, so credit given to that. But I don't know if it was the heated disputes that really bother. I don't know. This is some really weird tone policing. So it wasn't all surprising to see Twitch's non-gaming related parts take on a similar confrontational tone. If it's been custom to watch Ninja scream short of losing his voice while playing Fortnite, it doesn't take much to find existing parallels within Twitch's political sphere. The impulse to speak over each other on mere performative terms makes it harder to parse out ideas, and it lends itself to making most political debate on the platform of very little utility. This is interesting to me again. Is this person of the opinion that civil discourse is a more effective way of bringing people over to the left? Because I'm really sorry, guys. I'm not an expert on this, but I'm almost an expert on this. It's not. Hardline engagement is what brings people over. civility is not what brings people over. This feels like it was written by the most liberal in the fucking universe. I have no idea why this person is trying to speak for leftism. I don't give a fuck what the quality of the conversations are. You know what's a really privileged ass position? Watching people like me, or fuck it, sometimes like Destiny, arguing, getting our fucking hands dirty, get blood and sweat, trying to bring people over, trying to convince people that actually it's not good to lynch black people, and a liberal standing off by the side with their arms crossed, going, well, you know, I really feel like if you had just engaged a little more civilly, the quality of the discourse would have been higher. I'm really sorry. The quality of the discourse is not of import to me, my friend. What is important to me is changing minds and convincing people. But, you know, different priorities. I care about black people. What are you going to do? This has partly to do with Twitch's existing audience biases. Much like YouTube, the platform has been historically dominated by men, such that a short temper becomes standard. This feels really weird to me. Now, I understand that sociologically, men are encouraged and sort of raised to be shouty. I get that. This feels a little essentialist to me. Without like a disclaimer saying men who are, you know, sociologically disposed towards, like, without something like that, this feels almost like a turf take, you know what I mean? Succeeding on the back of traditionally feminine sensibilities is rather the exception. This definitely feels like turf rhetoric to me. Twitch has a way of conforming everyone into a pre-existing expectation of toxicity, and in the process strips outliers of any desire to swim against the current. When this mechanism of culling aberrations is upheld, it makes it almost impossible to thrive in the political streaming space without taking on some of that toxicity. The archetypical male, fucking Jordan Peterson write this? The archetypical male versus the archetypical female. I don't like the assumption that Twitch is like pushing people towards toxicity. I think the internet is just like that. I don't think that this is like, I don't think that, like, the implication here is that the predominant discourse on Twitch pushes people in a certain direction. I think the reality is that Twitch, like, just live streaming in general is always going to cater towards sensationalism and towards, like, clickbaity, like, React-Andy content. And for that reason, there's going to be a predisposition for people who have those personality types to succeed. But I don't like the idea that, this is getting pushed. Like Twitch is putting people in a box. I mean, Twitch will ban people for shit-talking other partnered streamers. Twitch, within its own rule set, actually discourages antagonistic confrontation between its high-profile streamers. I don't really think that's something they're doing specifically. Here's the big mention. That's not to say Twitch's more toxic brand of interactions doesn't have a place in the platform. Vosh and Destiny have pioneered the art of spectacle through such methods. I really don't like calling what I do just spectacle. I really don't like that. I don't like that. I put a lot of work into the positions that I argue for. If I was just going for spectacle, I could employ way more nasty rhetorical techniques. And some manage to maintain a healthy relationship with that dynamic without letting it seep into their own demeanor. What does that mean? However, when it becomes the default mode of interaction, it places an undue burden of compliance upon those who prefer to walk less of a mind-ridden road through recognition. Listen, it's just a fact of the matter. This is just a fact. For streaming content, or for any kind of like immediate punchy social media like that, highly performative, highly reactive content is always going to come out on top. That's just mathematically the case. So juxtaposing the sincerity and legitimacy of an argument with its performativity is a false dichotomy that I really can't get behind. I think it's possible to be argumentative and performative while also having an extremely well thought out, cohesive argument that you could defend on the streets or in an academic setting. And I think it's important to do that because all the delicious, juicy, logic in the world doesn't mean shit if you can't convince other people. What's that quote? What's that quote from the fucking Bachelor and Pathologic? Truth does often not do as good as its impression does harm, or something like that. At the end of the day, it's not being right that matters most. It's being right and being able to convince other people that you are right. We're cutting it down, folks. Politics on Twitch live live on a spectrum. On one end, there's the aforementioned toxic wing. I don't know, they haven't really justified how we're toxic, except like we're loud. And on the other, there's the wholesome wing, where, hey, creators like Lumi Ru, Bela, and Lottie Blix have found permanent refuge among communities that put positivity at the forefront of their priorities. There hasn't been a shortage of criticism between the two sides, and it's interesting to see audience members emulate the properties of political polarization where they stand in further opposition of each other the poor their opinions of the other side. Interesting, because I think Lottie sucks. I think Lottie doesn't like me. I remember reading a tweet where they were being super uncharitable to me. But speaking specifically about Lumi Ru, who is a flawless human being, I think we can all agree, there's not like any antagonism between people like Lumi and people like me and Destiny. I think there's a lot of mutual respect, because at the end of the day, the lines aren't drawn along how civil a person is. They're drawn along your actual ideological disposition. Yeah, I still have to debate Lumi's mom. Yeah, Lumi likes me. Not yeah, and I like Lumi. They're really cool, you know. All right, we're almost done, folks. What's more so interesting about the left's information ecology on Twitch is that it doesn't mark a stark departure from the right. Both sides. Even when it seems like that would be instinctually unintuitive. In a bid to match the right's success, the political left on Twitch felt compelled to do away with any pretense of empathy, alienating large swaths of mainstream leftists who could have otherwise resonated. Fuck off! The fuck are you talking about? The mainstream left on Twitch is just like the mainstream right because they're both mean. Fuck this fucking milquetoast liberal respectability politics horseshit, dude. There is no similarity whatsoever in the community or the discourse between myself and like a right-leaning streamer. There aren't many like overtly right-leaning streamers on Twitch. The biggest political streamer in the English-speaking world is Hassan Piker, and he pretty much dominates like the political discourse on Twitch at the moment. But even if there was this like one-to-one like war in the live streaming community between left and right-leaning people, this is such a wildly disingenuous comparison. But here we go. Conversely, this shouldn't be viewed as an appeal to the politics of civility. The act of being uncivil is often strategically frowned upon with the sole purpose of compromising the downtrodden's ability to voice a loud claim to their rights. We've seen that myth rehashed to the exhaustion with the Bernie Bros, and it would be disingenuous to patently deny the cogency of any critique just because it's been passionately expressed. However, when such emphaticness is used to nullify the credibility of the opposing party, especially when their concerns are salient, that when it becomes an impediment to fruitful discourse. So this is, and I'm going to wrap it up with this one, okay, because this is a deeply stupid argument, okay? This is the same argument I've heard a trillion fucking times. Vosh is a bigot. He alienates leftists with his bigoted rhetoric. And then I point, whoa, what did I just click on? I don't know. Hopefully it wasn't porn. He alienates leftists with his bigoted rhetoric. And then I point towards my rhetoric in videos. I'm like, wait, actually, I'm like aggressively progressive. Like, probably more progressive than you are. Like, statistically speaking, the people who criticize me on Twitter tend to be more reactionary than me, you know? A lot of them end up being TERFs or SWERFs or, like, weirdly exclusionary when it comes to race issues or class reductionists or tankies or libs, which are all classist, down to the fucking lot of them. So, usually on some level, like, there's a deep level of insincerity that comes like levied across these arguments. So they say that, and then I'm like, well, hey, look, check it out. I'm actually not reactionary at all. And they say, well, maybe you're not reactionary, but think of all the people who have been alienated by thinking you are reactionary. Just this completely nonsense fucking argument, which is, by the way, similar rhetorically to what conservatives use, because rather than using an argument, they make the preferences of people in place of an argument. Like, hey, why are black people worse than white people? Well, a lot of people think black people are worse than white people. Okay. Yeah, this is a shit tier article, dude. This is some fucking milquetoast lib respectability politics stuff. You know what? I'm really happy that me and other people are able to engage in political advocacy on their respective platforms. Not on Twitch, mind you. I'm not on Twitch, but I'm glad we're able to do this without being hampered too much by these privileged, optics-obsessed dipshits who don't actually care for and aren't capable of making the world a better place. So all they do is hamper and criticize people who are doing their best to actually do so. You all having fun clipping me? Are you having fun right now? Has Vosh ever gone into why libs are so fixated on civility? Yeah, because being a liberal means that you've consented to having a cloak pulled over your eyes. Being a liberal means, like, sort of implicitly that you buy into end of history bullshit, and that in your mind, like, the only thing that's left really to be discussed is like the minutia of very specific and incremental policy differences. They might be arguing in terms of optics, but they're not, though. They were arguing from a moral perspective. That wasn't an optical thing, because the only argument that they repeated multiple times, like, they're just like the right. They forgo empathy. I don't know if you remember. They said that people like me forgo empathy. When the fuck do I forgo empathy? Has anyone seen me, like, talk to my community for any length of time? Do they think just because I'm loud? This feels like unironically misinterest. If I, like, any engagement I have with my community, it's very clear that I care about people. Like, unless I'm, like, the greatest actor of all time or something. The only times I'm performatively cruel are when I'm talking to literal Nazis. Literal Nazis. Sometimes I scream at you guys, but I scream at you guys because sometimes you're fucking stupid, and it's my job to try and disseminate good and bad ideas. To the best of my ability. Yeah, exactly. Anger and rage are not the antithesis of empathy. In fact, it's the expression of anger in favor of empathy that usually makes for substantial political and civil changes. Do you think the people of the civil rights movement weren't angry? Go look at some videos of people protesting back in ye day. Look at the gay rights movement back during the AIDS epidemic in the 80s. Go look at fucking the second wave of feminism, okay? Do you really think that there's like this? I cringe so much when people are like, yes, the male sensibility of argumentative discourse, where the feminine sensibility of civil agreement. And then I'll, like, remember all the videos I've seen of marches in the 1960s for women's rights and for birth control and, like, civil recognition, and the second wave of feminism. And these women are, like, screaming. Like, they're angry, and they should be angry because they were victims of injustice. They should be angry. The anger is part of the empathy. They're not unempathetic, and they're not masculine for being yeah, for being angry about the position they've been put in. That's just part of making the world a better place. You gotta fight. You gotta be mad. Don't let your anger make you, like, cruel towards people who don't deserve it. But it's just an effective rhetorical tool.